It's Celebrity Showdown.
So we are back for the Secret Golf Celebrity Showdown. I'm sure by now you know how it works. We have our SG Tour Golf gaming app, and we have the showdown that runs as a game each week. Elk and Jay and myself all play, and we're joined by a celeb guest each week too. Now you can join in and play and go against all of us. We keep a running leaderboard, and it's a sore point for me right now because my place has been solidified at the bottom of the leaderboard week after week. However, I do keep saying, it's going to turn around one week. But we always root for our celeb guest. Last week, it was Chelsea Pizzola, who was live on site at concession, and she was the only person in the whole game to pick Collin Morikawa. So we're getting some good picks, and I feel it's going to continue this week. We are joined by Travis Fulton. Now, Travis has a podcast of his own, and he's a golf coach as well. Travis, thank you for being here.
You bet. Thanks for having me. It's a tough follow there. She picked the winner last week with Morikawa. I better bring it this week. Jeez, what a pick.
I know, right? Elk and I had said this when we talked to her. She had seen something, like she saw this exchange between Morikawa and Azinger at the start of the week. And we were like, why didn't we listen to her more?
Well, as you know, Travis will know this too, being a coach, that, Morikawa was, messing around with his grip on his putting, and he really kind of putted terrible out on the West Coast. He sunk way down in the rankings, but all of a sudden it clicked for him last week, and everybody was off of him because he hasn't proven it. But I was listening, watching, I'm sure you were too, Travis, watching how this would go under pressure. But mate, he put the claw to it, quietened everything down with his stroke, and he was able to just pretty much control the whole tournament.
Yeah, it's amazing what just a change in your putting grip can do, right? I think he even consulted with Mark O'Mara, who of course you know and played many years with, and helped him with the grip. And what a change. I think he was negative 7.6 strokes gained the week before. And then he turns around and goes positive 4. And he's such a good ball striker that if he just putts at all, he's going to be at the first page of the leaderboard. And of course, we know that he can put some wins away, as he's done it now 4 times.
Yeah. Travis, what do you think about the tour these days, and the fact that, on Sunday at one point we had Victor Hovland, obviously Morikawa, Scotty Scheffler, like these young guys that are really dominating week after week. It's so great for the sport.
Yeah, it is. They're ready to play. They come out there, they know what they're doing. They're very confident in their ability. And I think when you talk about Morikawa, Hovland, and Scheffler, they all win with the driver. They can drive the ball very well. Morikawa kind of last week, he's not long. Well, he's 295. He's not exactly short, so they have enough distance, but they're very accurate. They hit that little fade off the tee, and then they're good approach game players. And as you know, Elk, you've got to win with your ball striking, and then you kind of wait on those good putting weeks, and you get those good putting weeks. And I think these guys can win because they've played in competition for so long. So Morikawa has certainly been the most impressive, but I think Hovland is right there behind him as he continues to improve his short game. And Scheffler, he's just an absolute machine off the tee, and I think he's got staying power on the PGA Tour as well.
Probably throw one other guy, and Alexander Schauffele, that doesn't curve the ball, as you just noted, of the other two. I always like watching your videos on Twitter where you explain how these guys curve the ball. Morikawa, I talked about it on the show yesterday with everyone, and is the bar going to finally bend a little bit where the focus gets away from everybody trying to hit it miles off the tee and focus back to precision ball striking? For us, when I played the tour, let's see, 290 was the longest driver on tour. Dan Pohl, everyone else on tour was somewhere about 265, 270, but we didn't really worry about it. We just kind of knock it down there like that beautiful hole that Diane is. It all came about good iron play. There was so many good iron players on tour when I was there, and that was the guys we went to watch, whether it was Lenny Watkins, who literally could hit the flag at any moment, Hal Sutton, Hale Irwin, Calvin Peete. That was the guys that I went and looked at it. And Travis, is the bar bending? Are these guys going to move away from what Bryson's going for? Because a lot of these guys have ruined their swings going after distance, and they can't hit their irons that good.
I don't think so. I think you're always going to have a few that are going to chase distance, like we saw with Jordan, that he kind of lost it there a little bit. But I think when you look at Bryson, he's a little bit of an outlier, the extreme that he's taking it to. I think he needs to get back to the approach game because that's where he's losing it right now. He's plenty long off the tee, but his approach game with his irons is not as sharp as it needs to be to take full advantage of that length. But I don't think, I think Hovland has kind of strategically went after a little bit more distance, just kind of slowly lengthening it out. And they kind of have that, he has that, nuclear swing, as they call it. You know how you have that swing where I'm going to go to it to try to get 10 more, but you don't always go to it. So I think there's, on the PGA Tour, you have to have the approach game, as you know, and Hovland and Morikawa have it, and they're very consistent, and they're long enough off the tee to be competitive. I think you have to be long enough, right, to be competitive. And certainly if you can get it out there in that 320 mark and have that solid approach game, then you have the chance to be relatively dominant. But with these young players, they're plenty long. And man, Morikawa, in my opinion, has been the best iron player in the world now for quite some time.
Well, it's interesting. It's an interesting tournament this week. There's only two kind of players that have won at Bay Hill. As you know, Tiger Woods would be the first, which is a complete bomber of the ball, plays a lot of precision. Then we've had a real outlier group of players that have won at Bay Hill, like Lauren Roberts, the shortest player on tour, won it twice. Tom Kite's won there. Diane's buddy from Jack's Beach.
Not every
won it twice. So there is a way to play Bay Hill, Jay, the short way, so to speak, if the ego doesn't get involved and they just play their game and they've got a bag of clubs that work on these long par threes and long approaches. Jay, what are you thinking about this week?
Well, the one thing I like is, Elk, you just pulled Travis's picks right out from thin air. He's starting to kind of foreshadow maybe what his team's going to look like. He threw in a couple names, so I'm sort of feverishly jotting down some mental notes so I can counter what he's going to pick. But we'll get to that in a minute. And the other thing is, one thing just as a outsider and a fan, I love this tournament because it's just in this neighborhood, right? It's in this old school neighborhood that winds through there. It's Arnie's deal. And we really don't know who's going to win this thing. Like you've said, Elk, there's guys that come out of nowhere and win. And then, like Travis alludes to, there's bigger names. Of course, me growing up in the Tiger era, it was always his tournament. He seemed to almost win it every year, if not every other year. So it's a shame, obviously, with what's going on with him. But I'm looking forward to hearing Travis's picks officially hit the world here in a second.
I know.
Well, Diane, with Travis being a coach, Travis, are you going to use your swing knowledge, or are you going to use your experience, or are you going to use some gut? What's your combo?
Well, I kind of nerd out on this stuff. I like to do deep dive. I do my own show with gambling show. It's called Cash Out with the Coaches. So we kind of ham and egg this every single week. I certainly don't play golf swing. I have to stay away from that. As you know, you can't be playing golf swing out there. You have to look at it. But, Bay Hill, I've played it many times. And it is interesting to hear those winners, the Tom Kite, the Lauren Roberts, Tiger, of course, whatever he played in that era seemed to win about every other year. So it's you almost kind of throw Tiger out because he was just so dominant. But Terrell Hatton was a guy that kind of fits the mold here. This international flavor to this tournament is real. And, Matt Every is the last American to win here, and he did it back to back in 13 and 14. So there's certainly an international flavor to Bay Hill. The Europeans play well here. And I think with my picks, you'll probably see that.
Okay. I like this. We always root for the celebrity. I mean, I'm highly competitive and always want to
I don't root for the celebrity.
I do. And especially with Travis and that t-shirt this week. I mean, you can't really argue with that. So we're going to get right into your picks, Travis. This is how it works. Obviously, you get on the SG Tour Golf Gaming app, and then the field is divided into 4 tiers of players. Now, as Alex said at the beginning, you want your guys to make the cut, because if they miss the cut, they get marked down for an 80 Saturday and Sunday. And we're looking for the lowest score for the full team at the end of the tournament. So it gets a bit more interesting as we move through the tiers, but we're going to kick off with Tier A, aka the big guns. Travis, who are you picking?
So my in Tier A, I'm going to go with Tyrrell Hatton. I know, defending champion, but he's been playing great golf since that. I mean, this is a guy to me who just has continued to get better and better over the last few years, and he's won twice now in the last 5 months on the European Tour. Won the Order of Merit. He comes over here. He can handle these windy conditions. In fact, I think, the more the grind, I think the better Tyrrell seems to perform. So I think this is a good place for him. He proved it last year. He was 22nd last week at Concession Club. And what held him back was his short game was just awful. I mean, he lost 6 strokes around the green, but the rest of his game was great. So I don't think he'll do that again this week. That was a bit of an outlier. I think his form is good. I think he's got a very good chance to come in here and defend. So give me Hatton for Tier A.
Hatton's a good pick. We talked about, he was in our top 10 yesterday. You're right about, he's the best Euro player right now. He hits it straight. He doesn't have to stretch the tee ball at all this week. He can just play his game. I mean, this course obviously suits players. To me, I think this golf course suits people. Me, it didn't suit me. I was one of these guys. Maybe it was attitude, maybe not. But I always found myself at Bay Hill not long enough to carry the corners like Tiger and not short enough to have to play the corner like Tom Kite. So I was always on, there's 12 dog legs at Bay Hill, as you know, and I was always pinched in the corner. Hatton's already won there. He's such a straight hitter. It's a solid, no doubt. So
this week we ranked our statistics, Travis.
Okay.
And we called them the big 3: ball striking, scrambling, and putting average. Hatton comes in 35th in ball striking. His putting average is 9th. So anytime you're in the top 10 on tour, you're an elite putter. His Achilles is that scrambling. You alluded to it last week. I don't think it might be an outlier. I do like this pick because he's going to have good vibes coming back to a place where he's defending. Be interested to see this week if he can regain some of that touch around the greens if he needs it. Pretty good pick here to start.
Yeah. And larger than average greens around Bay Hill as well. So maybe the scrambling is not going to be so vital. And let's not forget, he's the highest ranked player in the world in the field, which is just amazing. And I feel like last year, with Bay Hill last year was the last full event that we had before COVID struck and everything changed. And it was almost bad timing for Hatton because that win kind of put him as one of the big players in golf, on the map. And then that little break, but didn't seem to affect him too much when he came out afterwards. Anyway, right. Tier A pick is Tyrrell Hatton. We're all for that. So moving on. B tier. Who have you got? I think I know the answer to this anyway.
Well, it's awful tough to look away from Viktor Hovland right now. Last 5 starts, I think he's got 4 top 4s. And he is the real deal. I think he's right there with Colin Morikawa from a ball striking standpoint. I mean, Colin maybe is just a slight edge ahead of him with his iron game, but his short game struggles a little bit. I've kind of moved short game down a little bit in my model this week. Not that it's not important. It's just not as important for me as some of the others. And I think this is a good spot for Hovland, who's got limited play here. I actually played with Viktor at this event in the Pro-Am right after he won the U.S. Amateur, and he was still an amateur at the time, and he was talking about that he thinks this could be a good venue for him as we were walking around. So I believe he's getting his 2nd start here, but this is just a recent form pick. I mean, Elk, you get going and your confidence is so high. It doesn't matter where you play, you're just hitting it great, you're putting great. It's like, just give me a ball on the tee and get out of my way. And that's kind of what I see with Viktor right now. He just looks so confident in everything that he's doing. If he can stay away from that big number, he's prone to that double and triple. That's my only thing that kind of worries me with him. But man, he is a hot player right now.
Yeah, we talked about it on the show. I don't know what he came in, Diane, his top 5.
Yes, we have him at number 1 this week.
To me, Travis, a couple of things that you didn't allude to on why I love Hovland so much is one was when he's a very relaxed guy, but he's got such a good attitude. I mean, when you think about his almost stablemate that came out with Matthew Wolff, Wolff has all kind of problems right now, whether it's mental or whether it's swing action or whether it's just, I don't know what it is with Wolff, but Wolff is not in step. But when you look at Hovland, he drives the tour. I mean, he gets in his car and drives. And Jackie Burke, I talked about it on the show yesterday, used to tell me, get in your car and drive. You need that 5 or 6 hours of separation where you can relax and think about what you're going to be trying to do in a Bay Hill. Now, that's a little extreme because this is a close drive for one to the other, but Hovland's attitude is superior right now.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll probably pick in my B group too.
Yeah, I love this pick. I don't want to say it's the obvious pick. It's really the only pick. I mean, this is the hottest guy going. He's we have him not just ranked at the top of our ranking, but he comes in ranked first in form as well. 8th in ball striking, 9th in birdie average, 8th par 4 or better. I mean, the guy's a machine right now. And Elk, you just alluded to it. He just has this disposition for a young guy to be able to hop in his car and drive the states and kind of live this incredible life. I feel like he's a guy that feels like he's just in a very fortunate spot. So mentally he's in a good place. If he doesn't win this week, he's winning next week. It's one of the two. So maybe he'll win both. Maybe he'll just go on an ultimate tear. So we'll see.
Good. I like the creativity that you see with Hovland on the course as well. So, yeah, as you say, I think most people are going to be picking Victor Hovland for the B tier this week. Maybe I'll just mix it up and do something completely left field.
He's in good shape. He looks thinner and looks really strong right now. Hovland does. Mm-hmm. Very.
Okay then, right, we're moving through, and when we get to C and D, this is when it gets a little more interesting because, as we said, you want to pick guys that are going to make the cut. So tier C, Travis, who you got?
Well, in the beginning of the year, our preview show that we did, there were a few names that I threw out there that I thought were going to really take the next step this year, come onto the scene. One of them was Will Zalatoris, who we've seen play very well. He was in the WGC last week, for crying out loud, in short start. I mean, he's the real deal. Sam Burns was another. I really like Sam. I think he's the modern player and was kind of just finding his way here a little bit on tour, getting comfortable. You made a good point, Elk, about the dog legs. I think Sam will carry the dog legs. He's a long hitter, and I think he's a very underrated approach game player. He's a really good iron player, and he's an excellent putter too, in particularly on Bermuda. He grew up in Louisiana. So I think this is a good venue for him, and it's a good field. You got some good guys here like Rory and Bryson who are not playing particularly well. Victor's, in my mind, probably the favorite as far as form coming in. So I think this is a good spot for Burns that if things kind of fall his way, I think this is a place where he could win. We almost saw him win at Genesis his last time out, and I think he'll keep his good form going here again this week.
Yeah, Burns, I've loved Burns all year. I followed him when he was, a kid. He's come up to the Champions Club and played golf when he was younger. So strong. I think I don't know, I saw him play so much more golf at Riviera than I'd normally get to see Burns, but he's swinging his iron games a little better. He looks like can't really put my finger on what he's working on, but he looks real rotational and he's very much under control with his ball striking. He did have a 3-shot lead with 8 holes to go at Riviera. He won't be very happy about that. This is the 4th time I think he's had the lead going to Sunday. So I talked on the show yesterday about there's a different kind of pressure now on Burns. Do other players see him giving up a lead? And does that weigh on a player? Could. There was other guys like Tom Watson that blew a ton of leads. And I'm not saying he blew this lead at Riviera because Riviera back nine's up for anyone. But he'll have to get through that. And I said it on the show. I think he's kind of mad about everything. And I do love Burns a lot. I don't know if he'll handle the dog legs as Travis. You're right. He will cut across them. Experience is huge, right? There's a lot of guys in this field that I would probably pick different in category C than Burns, even though I love Burns. There's a real tendency of guys to play good again at Bay Hill.
Yeah, Elk, you've gotten me on the Burns kick here, Elk. I mean, you keep mentioning his name every week, and we keep seeing him near the top of the leaderboard. My question is he going to is he adopting this I fade late mentality. And when you say he's done it 4 times, he's been in contention, he's lost leads, he's just lost a lead 2 weeks ago, and he was in prime position to get his first win. So I look at our rankings and I see across the board, everything looks great. And then there's this sore thumb that sticks out, 184 in scrambling. It's our second most important statistic this week, which just tells me late. Is he going to be tense? Is he going to have touch when he needs it? Not so sure. I'm not so sure this is the course this week that he's going to feel like I can keep a lead if I get up there or if I'm in contention. But hey, Travis, you got a nice young team starting to line up here. You got a bunch of young guys. I keep waiting for a veteran to anchor it down. So I guess we'll see here in Tier D.
Get ready for Sabatini or somebody.
Going back to that, what you were saying there, Jay, it's just part of the PGA Tour. And I don't think it matters about experience or how many times you've been there, and Tony Finau's name's going to come up again and again, really being in contention on Sunday. That pressure, Elk, you can tell us, I don't think it matters how many times you have it. It's still final day pressure on the PGA Tour.
Final day pressure is different. I mean, we will talk about it in a minute about Finau and Morikawa and other guys, Tiger Woods. There's a certain, we will talk about this after we get the D done.
Yeah. Okay. Right. We're going for it then. So, the final guy to join your Fourball team, Travis, who is it?
Well, I'm going with the Aussie. Going with the Cameron Davis here. He was my third guy coming in that I felt like could, take some steps this week as well. And you can see how I kind of tend to probably lean towards the ball strikers, a little bit. And, short game is certainly important. But, when you look at Cameron Davis, he's really good off the tee and he's good in the approach game, so he's gonna, I think when you look at Bay Hill, there's some big par threes. I think he's very strong in that aspect as well. I think he takes care of the par fives. So I kind of like the way this sets up for Cameron Davis as well. I like the way he's trending. He can get a little clunky around the greens. He's a little bit of an inconsistent putter, but who isn't, for some degree. There's some consistent putters, and there's probably a debate as we get to Finau and Morikawa. Would you rather be an inconsistent putter with a higher ceiling, or that consistent putter across the board with a little lower bottom? So I like Cameron here. I think he's trending. I think he's going to be a good young player, and I think this is another spot that we could see. I don't need him to win, right? I don't need all these guys to win. A nice, solid top 10. How about from the Aussie Cameron Davis? That one's for you, Elk, by the way.
Yeah. Cam Davis lives out in Seattle now, right?
I don't know.
I think he does, yeah, because we've been big on him for a while, so we've been stalking Cameron Davis a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know that. Yeah. Yeah,
Cam. I mean, Travis told us that he wasn't going to pick all good swings, but then he went ahead and picked all good swings. So that's cool.
Good, yeah.
I don't blame you one bit, Travis. Cam Davis it's a solid pick. There's probably some, he doesn't have a lot of experience at Bay Hill, but he has so much upside, Cam Davis. I mean, the guy can hit it almost as good left-handed. I don't know if you've ever seen that video on YouTube, but if you haven't, pull it up. I mean, he won the Australian Open. He certainly plays good on big courses. The question always becomes there's always a guy that comes up at Bay Hill, whether it's a Lauren Roberts or, and will this sort of, I suppose Cam Davis is a longish hitter. How will he play this course with experience level? This is a set of flat greens. You're right. Short game may not be as important, but when you play the long par threes and you start missing greens at Bay Hill, then it becomes really important. So weather has a fair amount to do with whether short game is going to come into play on this week or not. But Cam Davis is solid. I don't think you have the winning team, but it's a good team.
I think you are... you've laid out a really quality team, and I like that Travis, you've taken a little bit of a risk here. Of course, he's a good player. We have him ranked 25th this week on the SG Tour ranking. He is 131st in the official World Golf ranking. That stuff doesn't matter. Dude, you just need this guy to make the cut. All right. If he can make the cut and hang around on the weekend with the 3 stallions that you've laid out at the top of your picks, you're going to be in contention. So I'm going to put a little mark here by Cameron Davis and just keep my eye on him. And then we'll see if you're a serious threat or not to Elk and myself. Diane sort of, down there. We kind of yell at her and hear an echo down there with her picks. But I think it's a good team.
Diane picks a brother and then the other hot guys that she thinks look hot this week. So
it's not
that's how she picks it.
It's usually guys with white pants. That's always the first sign.
Just wait till you see who my D pick is this week. And Travis, your picks are now locked in. We are allowed to change our team up until play starts on Thursday morning. So we take your information on board, but your guys are now locked in. And as we said, I think you have a solid team in the works. You guys both were talking about, you mentioned Tony Finau a few times. I just want to touch on that. Obviously finishing second. He's had 2 second place finishes recently at the Genesis, obviously. Farmers had a good finish at the American Express as well. Travis, what do you make of Finau right now? And do you think that there is this ongoing issue of him not being able to close it out on a Sunday?
Well, there's no question. There's an issue not being able to close. I mean, he's been there so many times. What is it, 37 top 20s? I think since 2014 or 15, somewhere in there. The next closest is like Streelman at 16. I mean, it's an absurd number. He had every opportunity to win at Riviera for sure. Homa let him back in. I think when I look at Finau, he's certainly one of the best players out there in the game and most consistent as far as getting up there and having the firepower, the approach game. And I think his putting has gotten better over a course of a period of time when compared to years past. I think his putting kind of takes the hit for the reason why he doesn't win. But when I watch him, I think it's all situational, and it's a number of things. It's his ball striking tends to fade. So I think it's more than his putting the reason that he's not winning. You look at him on the 72nd hole at Riviera, they're tied for the lead, 320-yard drive. He makes birdie there, he wins, and he misses the green with a wedge. And then you go to the first playoff hole, the 10th, and he's got not an easy up and down, but certainly the place you want to be from. And he leaves it above the hole, 7 feet above the hole, which you can't do there. And then, of course, the second playoff hole, he hooks it and short sides himself. So I think there's a lot of things, just nerves, Elk, that are just there when the heat is on. And I think it's more than the putting. He's certainly not one of the best putters in the world, but I think he's an improved putter. And I think he's a good enough putter, but situationally, he's just not getting it done when the chips are down and saying, look, you got to hit a shot here to win, whatever it is. And he just hasn't been able to pull it off for whatever reason. And then you look at Morikawa, who gets in the hunt and he has staying power and he can put you away. So, I don't know. He's going to be there. The question is can he get it done with all the clubs when it counts?
Yeah, and the question that we talked about on Twitter yesterday was which one would you take under pressure? And look, they're both excellent. I mean, they're both at the top of their game, and it comes down to someone's got to win. You're right. Tony should have won Riviera. He should have. Once that Honma got it on the green at number 10 in the playoff, that's an up and down that he should have been able to get that up and down. I mean, for him to hit that 7 feet by from down below, that was he's hit that way too hard, and then he's got to make that putt. But I think with Finau, is it his technique? His stroke is certainly not that good from 5 feet. What does that mean? Is it a little wobbly? Yeah, it's probably a little wobbly. It's not as certain as some of the other guys' strokes. Morikawa obviously went to a claw grip, which kind of quietens everything down. I mean, we both know what they're trying to do with the claw grip. They're trying to take out any hit they have in the stroke. Tony's kind of using a new stroke now. He already knows that the guys in the commentary box are talking about him when he's coming down the stretch so that's a distraction. We, of course, know the greatest closer of Tiger Woods. The commentators are talking the opposite. How many times would Tiger have not gotten down on 10 at Riviera? Probably none, right? On number 2. He would have got up and down there. So I'm not even sure where the argument or the discussion goes to. I think Finau has got to get better from 5 feet and in. He shot 64 at Riviera. He's just got to be better at converting from inside of 5 feet, no matter where he is on the green.
Okay. Right, well, Travis, thank you so much for being on the show today. We have loved having you on. Tell us about your podcast, where we can find it, what it's all about.
Yeah, my weekly podcast, Stripe Show Podcast. You can catch it out there on iTunes. And we also do a show similar to this called Cash Out with the Coaches with Sports Pub Media. And we do that every Tuesday. That launches at 8 o'clock tonight. So check out those two, talking golf, making some picks. Hopefully these four make it to the finish line. So you got to get them to make the cut. That's the key. All four.